Good evening, and welcome to the Marian Minor Cook Athenaeum. My name is Xuan Yo, and I'm one of the 2 Athenaeum Fellows this year. Today, an estimated 30 million people around the world are enslaved. Anywhere between 600,000 to 800,000 victims are trafficked through international borders every year, and this figure does not even include the millions trafficked domestically within their own countries. A common misperception exists that human trafficking, the process by which a person is controlled and held captive for the purpose of exploitation, is a foreign problem, one that does not enter the borders of the United States. Yet 15,000 to 17,000 men, women, and children are trafficked into the United States every year. In fact, right here in Los Angeles is one of the top 3 points of entry for trafficking victims into the US. Each and every day, we very well come across victims of and survivors of human trafficking in our societies without realizing it. Considering the gravity and severity of this issue, we're indeed honored tonight to have with us Ms. Toshia Shaw. A survivor of domestic violence and sex trafficking, Ms. Shaw speaks out of the depth of her personal experience to mentor women through drug addiction, sexual assault, abuse, and other traumatic experiences. As the founder and director of Purple W.I.N.G.S, a multicultural nonprofit organization whose acronym stands for Women Inspiring Noble Girls Successfully, Ms. Shaw has helped and continues to help many young women in the Las Vegas area who are victims of minor sex trafficking. Please be reminded that, as always, audio and visual recording are strictly prohibited in the Athenaeum. However, Ms. Shaw has mentioned that she'll be more than happy to stay behind after the session for photographs, especially selfies, but only if you promise to put it on your social media feed. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Toshia Shaw to the Athenaeum.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Oh no. Good evening.
Good evening.
I like that. I like that. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I have to take a good breath. I got here and straight off the plane, I'm right in front of you. So first I want to say thank you for allowing me to grace your presence and your stage at your prestigious college. The grounds, it's beautiful. You are blessed to be here. So thank you. Give yourself an applause for being right here. I'm gonna do that a lot, that's what I do. It gets it to the brain, gotta get some air up there. So he talked a little bit about what I do. I never realized all the stuff that I do, actually, until someone introduces me, and I'm like, I need a getaway immediately. And he's right. I started an organization called Purple W.I.N.G.S back in 2010, but I've been working with victims of not sex trafficking per se, but domestic violence as early as 2002. And that's when I started to see a trend. Back then, I didn't know what sex trafficking was. It really didn't have a name for me. I just knew that there were some women who were in the life, okay? So I'm gonna say some acronyms. Feel free to write some stuff down, because when I'm done speaking, I want us to have an intimate conversation, okay? So I'm really up in your face. I'm gonna say some stuff that you might be like, whoo, whoa, yeah. Because guess what? So I apologize profusely to the professors that are here in advance. That's right. And I already know that you have your phones. I am not ignorant. So I just want you to at least tweet me at Toshia_Shaw. Promise me that, okay? All right. So I want to talk about success. I love that word, success. It means a lot to, different people. It takes on a whole nother meaning for each person that you ask. One person may say, success is when you have a whole bunch of money, material possessions, right? Wealth, power, that's success. And then you talk to another person, they may say that success is all about relationships and love or experiences that they have, being able to have freedom. I know some people that live completely off the grid, and they find themselves to be successful. And you cannot dispute any person, because again, success means different things to each person. But for me, early on in my life, I had no idea what success was. Because in my home, no one ever talked about success. I never saw it. Maybe I equated success with Aretha Franklin on the TV, singing R-E-S-P-E-C-T, right? Maybe I thought it was Diana Ross when I had my hairbrush singing, that's success for me, because I wanted to be the next Diana Ross. But again, I wouldn't know what success was if it just came up and probably slapped me in my face. I had no idea. Now, if you wanted to talk to me about disappointment and pain, then we can have a full-on conversation as early as 7 and 8 years old. That's pretty much what I knew. Because, see, violence, domestic violence, was at the backdrop of my life and my very existence. And pain and victimization became the thread and the fabric of my family household. So victimization, pain, disappointment, how can you even have those three in your vocabulary as a little girl when you were just playing with Barbie dolls? I did. As a little girl, I had no idea what happiness was. And if I did, it was just for a brief moment. It never lasted very long, especially when I heard dishes shattering and bones creaking, and I heard all kinds of horrible words being thrown across like dishes against the wall. That's what I heard. So again, I tell you, I had no idea what success was. But still, I thought I was a happy child. However, my family passed on victimization to me and thrust it into my lap without me even asking for it. And then pretty soon, it felt like a cloak. And I'm pretty sure you know what a cloak looks like, yes? Long. And it wrapped itself around me. And it tied itself around my neck, and I could not breathe. So as a little girl, when I got ready to just go and be happy-go-lucky and carefree, and I just wanted to snatch the cloak of victimization off, I could not. I didn't know how to. It was too hard. And so as I grew up, as a young girl, probably in my tweens, going to school was a release for me. I was away from that crazy household with the Vietnam father, a father that served 2 tours in the Army, Vietnam. That was too much for me, and I called him the bear. Not just a bear, but the bear. You dare woke the bear in the middle of the night, because there was something called post-traumatic stress disorder. I had no idea what PTSD meant as a young girl, but I understood what it felt like to me. There was the victimization, there was the pain. I took it with me to school. And so on the playground, when I should have been playing with Susie and Tasha, I was too busy picking out other children who had PTSD trauma syndrome. Right there at school, the aftershock of those waves from their family unit. Right there, we sat there and we talked about all of the inconsistencies that we had in our family and all the pain and all the victimization right there, and we traded it like war stories instead of playing hide and go seek or double dutch. I was too busy talking about what my father did the prior evening. That was my release. And so I started to grow up. And so at 12 and 13, when my father started hurling horrible, profane words to me, I had no idea what that was. At 12, I was a slut. At 13, I was a black B. You can finish the rest of that word. And it was not foreign to me. Remember, I wore the cloak, and it was tight. I was thrust in the wind tunnel of domestic violence. I was right in the eye of the storm. And so in the 12th grade, when I had my first boyfriend, and I was called to the principal's office, and the principal took a look at my boyfriend, the jock football player, the #1 star player, and the #1 recruit for college, right? While he was in there crying and screaming and throwing things against the principal's wall, and she looked at me and walked out and shut the door behind, and he took me by my neck and he jacked me up against the wall. I thought that was normal. Because a grown-up, again, allowed the cloak to be tied very tight and cutting off my circulation. They turned an eye. That's when I learned that people can know exactly what you go through and turn a blind eye because it's not their problem. I have never been safe. So after I got through my 12th grade year, and I graduated, and I got ready to go to TSU, and I got a phone call from a nice friend who told me that my best friend had just been murdered at the hand of my other friend, who was her ex-boyfriend, due to domestic violence, shot 5 times in her back. I dropped the phone, and TSU was off of the table because the cloak of victimization, it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't allow me to live. So I decided that I was going to run away from my problem and go straight to the military because that's what my friend wanted to do. That was her way of getting away from her trauma. I wanted to honor her life. And so I went into the military, the Air Force to be exact. But still being in the wind tunnel of domestic violence, who do you think I picked up? Remember, I'm a victim, and I needed to have someone close to me to go on this ride with. So the first boy that smiled at me and said, "Oh my God, you're so pretty," I married him. So I married an abuser, an alcoholic, a boy who was yet a man to wake me out of my slumber with a combat boot when I thought I was dreaming, I was being beat. Or how about the times he decided that he wanted to rape me? Or how about the times that I went to my first sergeant or the person who was over my whole platoon with lacerated lips and black and blue eyes, and he told me, looked me in my face and said, "That is not my problem. You need to go seek help off duty." The cloak was still there. It was tied even tighter, and I realized I can serve my country and still be abused. And when I decided I'd had enough, because enough was enough, still being a victim, still having low self-esteem, still being that same little girl that was slut-shamed and treated like trash, thrown away, low self-esteem, nothing there, completely null and void. I felt empty because no one cared, not even me. When I looked in the mirror, I saw nothing. I decided to try. I just needed to try. And of course, when you're caught up in that situation, you go from one person to the next. And so when I met this charming young man that knew nothing of violence, I thought I met someone and I thought I hit jackpot. But you see, I had the cloak. He had none, but I got him one, and I told him to try it on. I don't understand when you don't beat me. I don't understand when you don't curse me. What is this thing called love, and why do you think I'm beautiful? What do you see when you look at me? So when he got tired and he decided that he was going to take the cloak off, he left, and I lost it. Again, nothing. Nothing. So at 26, I found myself a single mother, and this time, divorced twice, a domestic violence survivor, and now this woman battered and bruised in the mind, the heart, and the spirit. I did what most young women do. You go down the rabbit hole because you don't know how to get back up, because you have no self-worth, and no one ever told you that you were worth it, not even your parents. What's hope? And what's dreams? With the cloak, I hid because I was a victim, and I liked to play victim because I knew nothing else. And I hid behind it well. And I knew how to force a smile. I knew how to pretend that everything was okay. Because that's just what you do, right? So at this time, I found myself completely out of my mind. And so I thought everything was empty to me. The only will I had to live was because of my son. But I was still standing on the stage of shame, twirling around on a pole of unforgiving, hating myself and hating my life and taking money from men and put it right here. Bag back, give me a few feet. Men became nothing but objects for me because I was an object of desire, so I knew how to take them home and make something of it. And when they did and they paid me and I got money, I felt good and I felt like I was someone. But what it did to my spirit, my soul, it was dark. It was dark. And I was completely unhappy. At this certain point, I decided that I wanted to start over. Surely God made me for more than this. I packed myself up, I packed my son up, and I was going to return home to Memphis. Start over, because Memphis is safe. It's not Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Memphis, for God's sakes. Elvis, right? And that's what I did. I was excited. I went back home, moved back home with my parents. My father at this time, well, he wept what he sowed. He fell ill and could do nothing for himself, so he was no longer a threat. And I was going to go to college, get myself a job, and make my son proud of me. One night I decided that I wanted to just go out, get real cute. I didn't know anybody anymore. Everyone had grown and gone, had their own families. It's been 7 years, people, since I was, but honorably, thank God, discharged from the military. So I took myself out. I found the hottest nightclub out there in Memphis, jumped in my car. I was ready to leave it all on the dance floor. I was ready to let loose. I got to the nightclub, quickly parked right in the front, got out, walked to the door. Before I could even put my hand on the handle, I heard it. Psst, psst. Okay, ladies, you know what that is. The infamous cat call. Please don't act like you don't know what a cat call is. Right, I ignore it too. But this time I looked over and I saw who was calling, so I answered and I broke that rule. Hello. 2 gentlemen sitting in a really nice car. Maybe my luck had changed. Hey, you don't want to go in there? We just left from that club. That club is dead. Why don't you join me and my boy? Let's go have breakfast. It's just right up the street. Why not? That's what I came there for, to meet people and have new friends. And it didn't help, it didn't hurt that this guy was cute. Plus, I'm going to take my own car. Now, I'm going to just stop right here because I know I'm not the only person that met someone on the fly and decided to go have coffee or tea. Am I? Right. So that's what I did. I followed them. We got to the restaurant. I was quickly seated. Conversation ensued. In fact, it flowed. The cute guy that was driving the car, he was all into me. And I loved it. I ate up the attention. And so what do women do, what do girls do when someone is giving them attention? I'm talking hand on the bottom of the chin, propped in front of me attention. What do we do? Oh, please, ladies, come on. Oh my God, I just got here. Oh yes, I'm a single mom, I'm looking for a job. Oh my God, do you know if anyone's hiring? Oh, and yes, and I'm from Las Vegas, and then I'm just ready to start my life over. This is gonna be great. You think I'm cute? Yes, I am, of course. So I needed to check my reflection. I was excited. I jumped up. Excuse me, I'll be right back. And I took myself to the bathroom, and I needed to check my reflection to make sure I was still fly. Did I say he was cute? And I was good. And before my hand touched the knob, I felt it right here. Intuition. You know that thing you feel that you ignore? Exactly. I pushed that aside because, am I just being absurd? Please, Toshia, this is Memphis. And I pranced. No, I pranced back to the table. Ladies, watch me walk. Hello. Yes, but I slowed down because I felt it. Right before I got to the table, you know, that thing you ignore? Right here. And I stood there, and I did not see his friend. Perhaps he felt our vibe. He wanted to give us a little bit more privacy. Maybe he had to go to the restroom. I don't know. Where's the waitress? You're looking around at different tables. You know how you do, ignore people because you're too involved in your conversation. When I looked at my friend, he was different. He wasn't chipper. He wasn't charming. He wasn't upbeat. He had a dark aura about him. In fact, his eyes, it just felt like they were glazed over. The stern look upon this man's face frightened me. And that's when I left my purse at the table. How stupid, right? And that's when he looked at me and said, Toshia, sit down. And now, I don't know about you guys, but when I get nervous, I start giggling. Yeah, I was giggling. I just do it. I just throw giggle fits. It's like, nothing's funny. Sit down. And are you looking for this? He held my purse, and that's when I felt it right here. I'm not going to ask you again. Sit down. And I did what I was told. I sat down, and I was shaking. And he moved in very close to me, so close that I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I could feel this man's breath. And he whispered in my ear real slow, this is how this is going to go. You know that job you said you were looking for? It starts tonight. Yeah, I'm going to be your employer. And that's when I felt it, something very cold and very hard against my thigh. And when I looked down, that's when I realized that my worst suspicion was right. And of course, the tears started rolling down my face, and he told me, suck it up. Do not draw attention to this table. If you draw attention to this table by crying, I'm going to give you something to cry for. Now, I understand you live at 3839 Emerson, and you know you have a son. You don't want to make this hard for him. I hate taking out kids. That's just not my thing. But if you don't get your ass up from this table tonight and do what I asked you to do, you're never going to see your son again. I'm going to kill him and your family, and I'm going to make you watch. So I stood up from the table exactly the way he told me to. And I looked around the restaurant, and nobody saw. Nobody. And where was the waitress? Had she known too? Is this serious right now? Ladies and gentlemen, I walked in full of hope with my new friends. I was going to start over. Walked in a free woman, and I walked out of that restaurant a sex slave. The time during this traumatic enslavement was horrible. I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. The places that I had to lay my head, the people, the revolving door. The way this man decided to take me every day because he needed to test the merchandise. The way he dangled death over my head like a piñata. The way the gun laid on the nightstand. way he just played with while I laid there, just rubbing it up and down my face. The way I begged each and every man, please, I am here against my will. Do what you want, but please, tell someone, please. And they did, but it was never the police. It was my friend. And so I paid for it. I paid for opening my mouth with pain and more violence. And there the cloak was tied tighter around my neck. And in fact, I wish that it would cut off my circulation, better yet, my breath. I wanted to die because death had to be better than this. In fact, I flirted with death. I wished for it. I prayed for it because anything would be better than what I was made. Anything would have been better than that. And in fact, perhaps my son would have been better off. What's the point of having a mother like me? Who in the hell would love me? And for what? But God had other plans. You see, it's no different than any other child, right? When they're begging their parents. Or perhaps right before you take that test, oh, God, if you let me pass, I swear I'm going to study better next time. I won't go to that party. Come on. You know how you make the promise. I made a pact. If you save me, I promise you, I will save someone else. If you spare me, if you think I'm worth it, I don't even know why you think I'm worth it, but if you think I'm worth it, I promise you, I will get it together and help someone else. I'm here. Yes. So perhaps he felt I was worth it. I think that deserves an applause. Man, I'm here. I always look up at the clouds and think, oh my gosh, that's amazing. The strength that I gained from just saying those words, because it was going to be either him or me. You want to get my son and my family? Well, you're going to have to get me first. I think I'll get you first. I bet you I walked up out of there. I might have been limping, but I walked up out of there. The days, the months that followed from that tragedy was probably harder than what I actually had to go through being trafficked. Because again, PTSD reared its ugly head. The symptoms that I had to live with, at any time, I could feel like I needed to regurgitate. The sleepless nights and the nightmares, the shakes and the trembles, the anxiety, panic attacks, not being able to drive, not being able to go on a highway, not being able to go by any sites that I had to be when I was working. The trauma is enough to drive any person mad. The mental illness that ensues after something like that. The horror of not being able to tell anyone. And I do mean never tell anyone. But I was determined to make it. I was determined to turn my life around. And I was so sick of that cloak of victimization. And so I started practicing something called meditation. I had no idea what I was doing, sitting there cross-legged, but I was doing something. And the yoga, my friend decided to help me. I don't know what the tree pose. Okay. But it started helping me. And then I took it a step further because I am a young black woman back then in the South. And in the South, we don't do something called therapy. But I did. And I sought out a clinician. Not just any clinician. I walked into the room of a 70-something-year-old white man. He was bald and looking like Santa Claus. Come on in and have a seat, Toshia. And so probably for the first 3 weeks, I would sit in front of him and not say 2 words. And he would sit in front of me and not say 2 words. I'd sit there, and he'd sit there, and he'd be doing his work, and he'd look up every once in a while and go, and I'll be looking at him because I had to give him the sister girl. And then he'd look up and, want some water? See you next week, and see you next week. But I kept going, and each time I'd sit in front of him, and he'd look up, and I'd go, And then it became, nice day? Yeah, I guess. Sleep last night? 3 hours. That's good, that's better than last. Okay? Because you never know where your help will come from, right? So if I wanted someone to accept me and not judge me, I guess I better not judge Santa Claus. Again, you never know where your help will come from. And this little old man who got into neo-soul and watched Love Jones because I told him to. Yes, he did. And I wrote poetry and brought it in, and he wrote some poetry, and I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. But he wrote it, and he brought it in. He was a little Jewish man, too. And we compared our poetry. We had poetry slams in the office. It was great. He became a really good friend. And he allowed me to share, and then he nudged me. And then I started recording my poetry. And then I started singing. And then I started to sing in nightclubs. And I started to get everything out little by little. And it felt really good. And he told me that I needed to ignite the fire within. And I looked at him, I said, "Oh man, ain't no damn fire in here." Professors, I'm sorry. I have to keep it real. Fire, no one had ever ignited a fire in me. And that's when I realized that you have to ignite your own fire within, right? And that if you do have a little bit of bud of a flame, it might start off just like that. It's up to you to turn it up and dial it up and keep it up if you want success. At this point, the cloak was hanging. It was real loose. I felt real good. So one night when I was meditating, I started hearing something. And it was loud. And I was the only one up. So what was that? And it was a voice, and it was loud. And I jumped my happy tail up, and I ran into my parents' room. Yep, my parents. And I told my mother, "Girl, cuddle me." Yes, because I'm hearing something. I'm hearing voices. So in the morning when we wake up, I need you to take me to the nearest psychiatric ward, and you need to put me in there because I'm losing my mind. I'm hearing things. And so my mom whispered, "Do you hear one voice or many voices?" I said, "I hear one voice." And she tightened her little bear hug around me. And she said, "Toshia, peace be still. Peace be still, baby. God is talking to you. Listen." And I did. And that night I slept for the first time over 8 hours. I felt good. So some time had passed, long time had passed, and I rekindled the relationship with my son's father. We fell back in love. And that old Toshia, the old Toshia with that tight cloak of victimization, I didn't know her anymore, and I didn't want anything else to do with her. She was long gone, and I dared tell my husband what I'd gone through. Because if you look at me, you would never know it, right? I say, right? Okay. And so I came back to Las Vegas, and I got a great job working at a financial institution, and I was passing. That's what a lot of victims do, they pass. Not just sex trafficking, but domestic violence victims, sexually abused victims, they pass. You'd never know what they'd gone through unless they tell you. And then I had a daughter, and actually I had 2.5 kids. The 0.5 would be my Yorkie poo. Diva. Yes. And we had a big old house, and I had the dream. Me. The little girl that was nothing. Then I started dreaming, this vivid dream night after night. Every night I had the same recurring dream that I would walk to the edge of the lawn of my childhood home, and I would sprout these wings, and they were purple, and I'd fly like clockwork every night. I knew what I would dream, and I had no idea what that dream meant. And so when I did my internship for my undergrad degree at a runaway shelter, and I had child after child come in, and let's just hone in on the young ladies that came in. We're talking girls as young as 12 years old. My first girl, 12, was so hopped up on black tar heroin. I had never even heard of black tar heroin. A 12-year-old girl that I had to throw in the room and detox off of black tar heroin. It's happening right here. And another girl that was brought in by the police, stark naked, from head to toe at 16, with nothing but a shirt on from the police. And when I asked her, "What are you doing?" "What I got her, ma'am. You got your job, I got mine." And that's what I learned, that children were being bought and sold right here in America. And I could not believe what I was seeing. And I would sit with those girls day after day and talk to them and find out about broken homes, domestic violence, right? Slut shaming, drugs, alcohol, skipping, dropping out. As young as 12? Let's take it even further to 11-year-olds. I looked for somewhere for them to go, anywhere. But let me tell you something. I don't think the Girl Scouts could handle that, because they ain't selling them type of cookies. Absolutely. Purple Wings. I had my aha moment. I would start it from the ground up. I would give these young ladies a place where they can come, a safe place to purge and talk about the things that they needed to talk about, to just get it out. Because they always talk about, they said, I have no one to talk to. No one understands what I'm going through. Sometimes you just need someone to listen. You just need an ear, someone that cares. And so I started working, and I worked real hard. I worked a day job. I was still in college. I was 7 months pregnant. All of this for these girls. I sought a secure place. I found the right type of help. I found a psychiatrist. I found a psychologist. Little old me. I did exactly what I was supposed to. I honored my pact that I made with God. If you save me, I promise I will save someone else. So, this is where it gets good. You thought it was already good. Oh no. Okay, I'm honoring my pact. I'm doing good things. I'm making a difference in the world, right? That's until girl after girl started sitting in front of me, purging and telling me, sitting in our little sacred girls circle talking about the beatings they had at the hand of parents, the psychological abuse, the financial abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, losing friends to murders, drive-bys, gang banging, not eating, being hungry. I had 3 girls, 3 sisters that were sent to 15 different foster homes. And one of the mother of the 3 girls sold the oldest one to a drug dealer. Sold her, and she got pregnant. The last foster home was supposed to be the last foster home because the woman promised that she was going to adopt all 3 sisters until she got pregnant. And she didn't want her anymore because she said 3, not 4 girls. Imagine being 16, 14, and 11 and having gone to 15 different foster homes, and your mother bought and sold drugs and transferred your sister over for a hit. And so the drug dealer, who was now the child's father, who was a grown man, shot your sister up with heroin against her will because he thought it was funny, and your mother laughing too. I have story after story about girls that sit in front of me. These are the types of girls that we take care of. We take care of the girls that no one else wants. Or how about the transgendered girl that comes in, Nick, because I'm just an alias, not the real name. Looks like Justin Bieber a little bit. You can laugh, seriously. He knows it. No one wanted him because he was transgendered and not what the father thought that his little girl should be. So no one wanted her. And so she attempted suicide 5 times, and the probation officer called me and said, "You're the last effort, Toshia. If you don't save her, I'm throwing her in jail. She's gone until she not graduates, but turn 18. I can't deal with her anymore." She sat in front of me, could not even look at me in my eyes, and held a full conversation for 20 minutes staring at her lap. And I said, "Do you really want to come to Girls Circle? Because you look like Justin Bieber. You look like a boy. And we girls. And we girly girls. And we paint butterflies. And we talk about makeup. In fact, we have makeovers." I'm down with that. I'm good. Because Nick had been doing heroin ever since he was 12 and dabbled into all kinds of drugs and again tried to commit suicide. And he kept coming every Saturday. And I didn't understand why he kept coming every Saturday because we didn't talk about anything manly. But he felt a sense of belonging and non-judgment. And he felt love. And now the little girl who was accepted at Purple W.I.N.G.S as a little boy, graduated from high school this year with a 3.0, clean, and works at Walmart. That is what happens when you ignite the flame and you turn it up and you care about someone and you have a sense of compassion. And we do this week after week, and we do it during the week because we realize that when young girls come through those doors and they're unhappy and they turn to drugs and alcohol and they drop out or they go and prostitute themselves, of course not by their own will, that there's pain and they're wearing the cloak of victimization. And so when girl after girl sat in front of me and said, "Miss Tosh, you just don't get it, you don't understand, you have no idea what I'm going through," I want to yell, "Me too! I do! Don't give up, I know!" But I couldn't because it was there. And now the cloak of victimization turned into the cloak of shame and guilt. And I could not speak up. And when I tried to go home and tell my husband, he would not hear of it. "Toshia, leave it behind. Why are you talking about this? No one knows. What will my friends say if you spoke out? You can't tell anyone." And that's when I decided, no, I realized that I had to speak up for myself because God wanted me to speak up to save others, right? I had the pact. I promised that that's what I would do. And then that's the last part of the victimization. I couldn't allow anyone, not anyone, to sit up and tell me what I should and should not do, who I should speak to, and I could not allow anyone to make me feel shame of guilt of what I'd gone through and survived, because I survived, which means I have purpose. And so now he's my ex-husband, and I need you to clap for that. You never allow anyone to dim the light. Do you know how hard it took me to turn it up? So I realized that I would have to stand on my own 2 feet and that I needed to speak out, because when you use your voice off of what you've gone through, you give others permission to speak up also. When you stand in your power without shame and guilt and say, I went through that, I survived, I'm here, I got purpose, I am loved, I am beautiful, also classy. That's when you become successful. Success is on your own terms. No one else can keep you down. So, the cloak has been burned, and I stand in front of you today, but today you see a cape. Big old S on my chest. Yes, it's a cape of strength, resiliency, strength, happiness, hope, compassion, love, beauty. And when I walk to this side, it's flapping. You see it. It's flapping in the wind, honey. And I'm going to go to this side because I don't know if y'all saw that. Yes, this cape, it's flapping, and it's going. And I have no cape anywhere in sight. And I have no reason to take the cape of success off because it feels good. And I just want you to know that you can't wear the cape of success if you also have on the cloak of victimization, right? Guilt, shame, unhappiness, depression. You can't wear them both. It don't look good, honey. You got to have either or. But I promise you, the cape of success feels much better than the cloak ever had. I have a closet in my organization named after my friend that passed away. I'm honoring her still. And the women that come through my door, and when they sit in front of me and say, sister, you have no idea. I go, girl, shush. Yes, I do. And I don't have time to trade those war stories that I used to trade out at recess, because I'm too busy to talk about success and how it feels. And if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, how are you going to come out on the other side? And how if you believe in your own self, you don't need anybody else to believe in you. And each girl, each woman that comes through the door, we ignite the flame and we turn it up. Y'all say turn up, right? We turn it up and it shines so bright, and we dare anyone to turn that flame out or to blow it out. I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot. I've suffered some things that you would never imagine. I was once like you, full of hope, happiness, wanting so much for myself. And then I lost my way, and I let low self-esteem, depression, unhappiness, self-doubt, self-pity, victimization come in. I need you to understand it has no room in your life because success is on the other side, waiting for you. My name is Toshia Shaw. I am a leader in my community. I am a professional mentor of young girls and women. I have helped hundreds and hundreds of girls realize their internal flame, reach success beyond measure. I wear a cape. I ask you, where's your cape? And when will you put it on? Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Now, I want to take a few minutes because I love to be very intimate. Question and answers. So ignore your professors if they're in here. Don't look at them. I hope there's no parents here, God please. We're going to have some intimate conversation, get as raw and gritty and down and dirty. There are no stupid questions. I need to know exactly what you're thinking. If you're thinking it, men, I love to hear from the young men. It's hilarious. This is not a men bashing. Nope, I love men. I have a 19-year-old son, and he won't allow it. So I need you to be very honest, just as I was upfront and honest with you. I need you to do the same with me. So let's have question and answers.
So if you have one, please wait for Shwen or I to come to you. And preference goes to students.
Thank you so much for coming. Your
Thank
story was
you.
absolutely amazing to listen to. So I wanted to ask about faith, because you spoke a lot about how God helped you get through this. And I wanted to ask how you were able to hold on to your faith in the darkest moments, and what allowed you to not lose that and sort of pull yourself forward.
Faith. It's really testy to talk about faith in these times, no? And you guys got to have faith. That's how I need your energy, so you got to talk to me, okay? Because I'll come down there. So faith, for me, faith was the only thing that held me up in my darkest hours. It's the only thing that covered me when I felt so exposed. Faith was taught to me as a child, but in a different way. I found faith differently because what happened is after I decided to live, because it's a decision, you know, when you decide to live, you either got two, or you're going to die or you're going to live. And I decided to live. I started to read everything I could get my hands on, and I read, oh my God, so many books on religion. Because I needed to make a clear decision as to where I would start putting my faith and who I would follow. And I realized that I would follow this. So my spirit is in here. God is all up in here for me. I have a very personal relationship with God. It's not found in a brick or mortar. It is right here. And I can talk with him. Remember, he was talking to me loud and clear, and I thought it was going cray. We have conversation. And so what you have to remember is that there is always going to be another day, and that you will get past it. You just have to keep going. It's when you stop that you incur problems, right? You can either lay down and die or get up. And that's what I did. I got up. So faith is at the very foundation. I replaced the tapestry of domestic violence and pain. I replaced that with God and spirit and angels and blah, blah, blah. Yes. I hope I answered your question. Any more questions? Hi.
Hi. Oh.
What's your name?
Anna.
And what's your major?
Politics, philosophy, and economics.
I didn't ask him. I'm going to ask you next. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your talk, first of all. I was wondering, what was it like explaining to your kids some of your traumatic experiences and how you've dealt with that within your family?
So I told my family for the first time ever in life that I was sex trafficked in 2013. I held that secret a very long time. And it's because, could you imagine telling your mother what someone had, done to you. She had an idea, because while I was going through, I didn't get to that point. When I was being sex trafficked, remember he said it was a job, I was allowed to go home every night. There's a misconception that all of the trafficking victims are in cages and are chained to mattresses. That is a gross misconception. I was allowed to go home every night. Remember, he had stolen my information. So what he would do is stalk me, and he would drive by my house every day and tell me what my son was wearing when he was playing. And that's how he got me to get up and go. He would call and say, it's time to report to duty. Let's go. You're used to that. You were in the military. Let's go. So I had to deal with that, and that secret was eating me up like cancer inside. And my mother knew something was wrong, but she thought I was on drugs. So she kept, I don't know what drugs, that girl's smoking something. But I wasn't. I was just in a lot of pain, and that is what ate me up. It took me 40 years, 39 years to tell them what I had gone through, and that's part of the trauma right there. I'll start stuttering and stuff. So it was very hard telling my son, because remember my ex-husband, he threatened me never to tell him. And so when I told him, he took it the hardest, and it reacted as if someone had died. And part of the trauma, I'm numb, so I sat there staring. It's really sad. And so he was crying and snotting, but he told me, he held me for a very long time, and he said, "You're my hero. Mom, you're so strong, oh my God." And so everybody else, I was like, I'm his hero, hello, the cape. So that made it all better, and my brother was on the phone, long distance. He's a sheriff in Tennessee. So could you imagine how he feels that I did not share that information? So my family went through a metamorphosis. It was anger at the perpetrator, and anger at me for not telling, and anger because, then it became about them, because why didn't she tell me? What kind of, that kind of thing. But I told him, shut up, it's not about you, honey. Just be prepared, because it's a big old TED Talk coming out. You might get some calls. That was the hardest. More questions?
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm studying government here at CMC. Ooh. And first of all, I just want to thank you so much for having the courage and strength to share your story, and for coming here to tell us again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So one thing that you touched on shortly in your talk, but I was wondering if you could expand on a little bit more, is how when you started going to therapy, you said you wrote poetry and you started singing. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how getting involved in the arts and creative pursuits helped you process what you had been through, and if that's something that you also do in your organization for the girls that come and see you.
Well, hello, smart lady. Yes, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of creativity. I tell everyone all the time that journaling saved my life. I have all these journals because that's where you purge when no one else can listen, right? And when you're too ashamed to tell anyone else, that notebook holds all your secrets, as long as you don't have someone nosy to read it. And that's what I did. Every thought, everything just came out, and I just journaled, and it just poured out. And when I got on stage, I was able to bare my soul, and they didn't know what the hell I was singing about. But I was up there, and the music transformed me. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a singer. And so it took me back to that little girl. So you have to make peace. When you go through something traumatic, you not only blame the other person, but you blame me. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Why did I leave my purse? I'm so stupid. Why am I better than? And so I had to forgive myself. You have to forgive, and I know a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy. I had to forgive the person that trafficked me, and I did. Because if I did not forgive him, I would not be able to stand in front of you. I wouldn't be able to live and have a good life. By forgiving a person who has wronged and hurt you, you take back your life, and you take back your strength, right? I'm no longer a prisoner of what he's done to me because I talk about his ugly self. And so the creativity allows you to purge and get it out. And no, it doesn't matter what you say. And we have poetry slams at the Purple W.I.N.G.S house. It's that purple stuff, man, rapping and oh my God. So the creativity will help you. So the girls do it. I have a grant that I write every year because, you know, a lot of girls, when you suffer something like that, you have behavioral health problems. And so these girls suffer from emotional problems and behavioral problems, and they're diagnosed with bipolar and all kinds of stuff. And so we have to help them. So I had to write a grant for the girls who are not covered by insurance because I was told by certain prominent insurance company that being a survivor of rape is a social problem. And being a survivor of sexual molestation at 7, where you carry a baby doll around, even to school, is a social problem. So I had to start something, yes? And that's what I did. We are not widely, supported because we go against the norm. I live in Las Vegas. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Women are seen and not heard. They're no more than T and A. How many of you have been on the Strip in Las Vegas? How many of you seen the pamphlets while you walk by? They don't care if you have kids. How many? Let me see your hands. You seen the pamphlets? How many of you seen the moving billboards, the trucks? Call me to your room. How many of you gotten off the plane and you drive down I-15 or 215 and you saw the billboard for a good time? Call. That's what these girls are seeing every day. They're bombarded with these images. Now I ask you, what would you do? There was a billboard that I raised holy hell with this year around graduation at Cheetah's nightclub, my alma mater. It said, graduates of 2015, we got your jobs here. That is what these girls are looking for and aspiring to be because that's what's being force-fed in their minds. Any more questions? I hope I answered because, girl, I'm all over the place.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the work that you do at Purple W.I.N.G.S, especially for healing for these young girls. My question is more about how do you think prevention efforts can be taken to make sure that they're not put in these positions in the first place?
First and foremost, it has to be taught at an early age. My youngest victim was 12. So at 12, I was playing with Cabbage Patch dolls. 12. That's very young. My daughter is 9. She'll be 9 in a couple of weeks. Can't imagine someone using her for that. Prevention starts at home. I see every girl of every race, every socioeconomic background. It's so funny because they think it stays in one area of town. I have girls from every economic background in front of me. So you need to start having the conversation because no one likes to talk about sex, but everybody likes to talk about sex. They sell sex when they sell you hamburgers. Am I wrong? Oh, this hamburger's so good. Carl's Jr., your daughters, your nieces, your sisters are watching that. Have a conversation. And especially when she's on Facebook, because my clients have 2 and 3 profiles. Backpage, Twitter. Women sell themselves on Twitter. Backpage, Facebook. Oh, there's so many. Snapchat. There's so many coming out that you can't keep up, but I will urge you to keep up. If you have young ladies and young boys, because young boys are trafficked too, but we like to act like they're not. They're trafficked at an alarming rate, and they don't speak up because they can't. Guilt, shame. Have the conversation. Have the conversation at church, because churches don't like to talk about sex, but they're all having it. They wouldn't be sitting there if they weren't. Just like they don't like talking about homosexuality. It's uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's very important. And everyone can do their part. You don't have to do one-on-one like I do. But I have a huge social media campaign coming up called Remove the Tape. So please write that down. Remove the Tape. You go to removethetape.com and you can sign up. And December the 1st, I think, is the launch. And what started off to be, it says sex trafficking, but I have gotten people from all walks of life talking about being survivors of sexual crimes, sex crimes. And they want to remove the tape. That means just talking about it, having a conversation. So we want people to submit videos no longer than 1 minute. And I want to see people, and it'll be great for colleges to get involved. I want to see people removing the tape and talking about it. You don't have to be a survivor of any sex crime, but if you even state a fact, myth versus real, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to put on there. And if you are brave enough as a survivor, and you got a big mouth like me, hello, I'd love to see you share your story if you're ready. So Twitter, social media is huge. Do you know how many young ladies don't know that by going on a blind date or by going to a party or by just meeting somebody online, they can be sex trafficked? That's my biggest numbers there. My girls meeting men on social media. I just got one 2 weeks ago. 22 years old, girl in college, UNLV. Met a young man from Miami. On social media, he's been courting her for 6 months. He sent her a ticket, she's in love. Her mother called me 2 weeks ago and said that he was making her dance on stages. She was stripping at some Mexican exotic dance houses. She couldn't even speak the language, but he was waiting for the money, and he was also selling her. And we had to pretend that she found a John who was flying her to Las Vegas to get her a boob job for him to let her come home. She's been saved. Thank God. Any more questions? Don't be shy. Where's the guys? No, you got some.
And this will be our last question for the night.
Okay.
Thank you again for speaking. I'm wondering, could you tell us about some of the signs that someone's being trafficked and what we can do? Like, there's any measures we can take if we see that?
Yeah. You know, I can think back. I wish, it's funny, I know I couldn't tell, supposedly. I'm just even using myself as the signs were there, man. The signs were there. They just thought it was drugs or something. And even if it was drugs, do something, right? So they start acting different. You got friends, little sisters, look at whatever, someone acting different. They just change their pattern of behavior. They start dressing different. And you know, it's such a thin line. I live in Vegas. You know how they dress in Vegas? This is way too much clothes for Vegas, right? That's just normal church wear. But if they're just wearing club wear and provocative clothing, no matter what the season, okay? If she's coming home with things that you know you didn't buy, like, yeah, young ladies with the iPhone 6 Plus, and the parents can't even afford to buy food, that's a problem. A lot of my young ladies have, this is weird, but a lot of the young ladies have hair weave. This is all me, by the way, but they have hair weave. And these expensive hair weaves cost over, I guess, $200. They got their nails done, groomed, expensive sneakers. So they start getting, so what he does is he's grooming them. And he's showing her, look at all these things I can get you. And all you got to do is A, B, and C. Because usually he's nice at first. He's not a gorilla pimp. I had a gorilla pimp. A gorilla pimp is a person, or he's not a person, right? It's a monster, an animal, that takes a person by force and makes them do something. A lover boy pimp, right? Lover boys are the boyfriend. He starts off as the boyfriend. That's the usual one that I see. He's their boyfriend. He pretends to be their man. And then he just eases that prostitution right on in there. Come on, girl, we need a new car. I need you to hook me up. Hell, I hooked you up. Right. So she's being very secretive, won't give you access to her social media, staying out all night, skipping, not coming to class. We could keep going. I have some slides I want to show, and it shows you, because it's a lot. So I hope I've answered some questions. I think I'm gonna stay behind and do an even more intimate setting and go over how to assist victims of sex trafficking, and we're gonna even break it down even further if you're interested. I wanna say thank you. Thank you for accepting me and for being non-judgmental and being a pleasure. You are future leaders, and I am so proud. I think we'll be fine with you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.